We're live. Good
Yay.
evening, everybody. This is Art Chat, and all of us are here tonight. It's great to see everybody. So, I'm Colleen Rose from Red Rock, Ontario, Canada, and let's start with Melissa, and we'll head across the board.
Hi, I'm Melissa Petit from Apex High School.
I'm Kathy Douglas from Massachusetts.
I'm Kim Sudkamp from Apex, North Carolina.
Ian Sands. I'm from Yonkers, New York. I am. Currently living in Apex, North Carolina.
On loan.
On loan. On loan from Yonkers.
So tonight, I know that a few of us were chatting about what we wanted to talk about tonight, and I know that a few of you were mentioning a drawing assignment that you were currently going through with your APEX students, and what you had envisioned it to be turned out to be a little bit different than what you thought it might be. So would you like to talk about that, and then we'll go from there?
Take it, Melissa.
She
You're
left.
good at this. Oh, she was the best person.
I don't want to talk about it.
She had it all planned.
Maybe she's searching for visual aids. Does she have a visual aid? Set it up for us, Ian.
I'll start it off. She's probably dealing with her kid. It was interesting. We worked really hard on like all summer. We worked through our plans, what we're going to do, and the first unit we wanted to do with Artist Observe, and we started and we put it all together, and we had a lot of stuff we wanted to cover, and a lot of mini lessons, and so it really came out to be about 2 weeks of mini lessons, and starting this week, would be to give them an open, summative final project where they could do. Let me give you an example. Like with the Art 2 kids, we did figure drawing, we did scientific drawing, and we did a perspective. I turned it into sort of like architecture, outdoor, urban landscape type of thing. So from those little mini plans, they would this week pick one of those topics and find a way to work with it. But what happened was, it sort of, for me, it became like almost like the mini lessons like took over like Little Monster, and they almost became like I fell into my old habits of like, I'm going to teach you this and you're all going to do that, and after the end of 2 weeks, I felt really like I had just wasted almost 2 weeks. I mean, it was all good information. I don't mean to say it like that, but I didn't get to know the kids. I don't know what they like. I don't know what they're into. I learned nothing about them. Hardly their names, and just giving them a lot of, I think good information, but it just didn't feel right. It was weird.
It wasn't that
But look, Melissa's back.
exchange of information, or the interaction with the student. It was very like, I tell you this, and then they do it because it's the beginning of the semester, and they're working hard. They have the knowledge, but that you don't get a lot in return.
It was very joyless.
Well, there's one thing to be said about teaching a skill and the technical benefits of that, but then you're left with nothing but skill. There's no heart to your art, I guess. There's no feeling. There's no personal connection, and I think that's why we prefer it when we provide open-ended lessons, because then, as the skills are needed, then the students can learn them depending on their interest. But that, I guess. It's just it's interesting, because really, when we were taking a look at all of your plans on the Apex portal, it's so cool to look through all of those plans and see what's available. And is there a possibility that you're too efficient?
So I think the first unit we were a little dishonest with ourselves, maybe, and definitely kind of dishonest with the kids, because we said we were going to teach you that Artists Observe, and what we taught them was how to draw with pencils and charcoal. It wasn't big enough. It was too small. So Ian and I were having this conversation today. You know, next year, call it drawing skills boot camp for Art 1.
Yeah.
Or just be honest about what it is, and I think everyone would be happier with it. They just seem disengaged and bored and compliant. It felt it didn't feel good. I haven't taught like that for 5 years at least, so it felt very strange.
This is
And
fascinating.
probably it's interesting because probably the students picked up on how you felt as well. Like they probably noticed a change in your characters as well, and they might have reflected that a little bit. Like I'm sure they were interested and they were happy with improving their skill, but I would bet that you acted differently in the class because you weren't seeing the same results.
That would make sense. I didn't feel the same telling them what to do. I went off plan on Friday and had them make, we were doing perspective, and I had them make tape murals. And my Art 2 students seemed quite a bit more engaged and into it. And I wonder if part of that, now that you said that, was that I was interested in it, because it felt really good to say, okay, here's tape, here's an image, go make something.
And they did a great job with them too, which is even, you know, they did. It wasn't like they really, you know, engaged. They went out and they really tackled it.
Now, the first time I ever heard Ian speak at a conference, and I don't even know what brought me there. I might have been lost or something. And you were standing up there and you said, you know, art foundations, I've been teaching this, and I realized how bored I was. And if I was this bored, I can't even imagine how bored my students must be. I'm sure you remember saying that. And it was your pre-tab, but beyond the pencil that you were doing. And that made a big impression on me. And I think this conversation could be germane to some of the discussions that we've been seeing online about where teachers are complaining about their disengaged students. So I think this is actually super important, and I think it bears a lot of pondering and maybe an article. And now I'll be quiet again. Talk to us. I think it's really hot stuff myself.
I want to add one other thing that happened to me that I don't know if everybody else, it was maybe a personal thing, but so I'm with my Art 3 class, and so I finally got to the point where I'm like, okay, we've done enough of these lessons and everything like that. I'm going to give you guys a summer project, and I gave it to them. I showed them examples, and we were playing with some watercolors, just messing around with them. And I was just like, I want you guys to come up with some ideas, and I want you to think about what you can do. I want you to pick a medium, and I left it wide open because these kids have been in, Art 1 and Art 2. And I explained that, and they all turned around and started doing these little rinky-dinky little, like, project. It wasn't for the project, but just, like, they just kind of reverted back to, like, what they knew and what they were really, what felt real. I could see it was, like, they were just, like, doing these little safe things. They were being really safe and very careful and they knew how to use this particular material, and they were just going to play with it. And I'm, like, sitting there going, like, I've got 2x4s and joint compound and chicken wire. What the hell are you doing? And then I realized, well, it's not them. It's like I haven't, I've wasted 2 weeks, and made them feel like that's what they needed to do. And that was
I noticed something. I noticed something very similar with sculpture because I did the mini lessons of, like, they learned a thing in cardboard, they learned a thing in clay, they learned a thing with books, and though they learned those skills, they wanted, when I introduced the project, they originally wanted to work that size again. And I'm like, no, make it cooler, make it bigger. How far can you take it? And they did so much better after, I kind of showed them more artist examples, and, like, I tried to get them, like, really excited about it, and they got their choice of medium. Then they started coming out of their box. But it took, like, 2 days just to, like, tell them, go bigger. You don't have to do this.
I think when we give them permission to play, and then they're unsure of what we expect of them to, and there is a huge amount of what we expect, and their fear of displeasing their teacher. Mm-hmm. There is, as much as we like to say that there's so much freedom in our classes, there's always those, and the majority of our students, who are worried that they're going to do something wrong. They're not going to do what we think that they should be doing to get a high mark or whatever. So if we give them that permission to play, what's that?
That's how you win in school. You should please the teacher.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So I think if we give them the permission, not only by saying it, but by also setting up the requirements of these bigger projects so that it is open-ended, so that it's really clear, so that they, they document the beginning through to the very end and the reflective part of their project. They know that, well, even if you mess up and even if you have these projects that don't necessarily or might not necessarily please the teacher, it's all going to be okay, and they can explore and play.
This is my friend John Crow's specialty, is getting adults to play and giving them permission. He has lots of certificates that he prints out, a license to play, all sorts of things that he hands to adults when they come in his room. And at the Institute, there were 42 people there, plus the teachers, and he had 50 rolls of tape. And everybody got a roll of tape, and he said, make something, and he left the room. He said, I'll be back in an hour. And, of course, some people sat there stunned, and other people got right to it. And, of course, when it was done, there were 42 completely different things that happened. He has very, very simple things, which there's no way you can comply with him except by playing. Those are fun to think about.
That is cool. I wish that we had that opportunity to just let our students play for an hour without us being in the room, just to see what they would do. Yeah. Could you imagine?
But yeah, how do you loosen your kids up? If you've got kids that you can see are all wearing their compliant T-shirt, how do you bust through that? I wonder.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do it, I think, with like Mark Freeze, what I was referring to. I'm going to have to do it on an individual basis. I'm going to have to say, like, what's your idea for your project? And when they're like, I want to draw a butterfly, I'm going to be like, okay, how big a piece of paper do you need for that? What kind of medium you can use for that? Do you want to do it on canvas? Do you want to do it on the side of the building? I think I'm going to have to, like, open it up for each student, just so they realize, oh, I can do that. I can, I could go put this on the side of a building. Yeah. Okay. I think I need to give them the permission that Colleen was just talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple.
Relationship. Oh, go ahead, Kim.
I was saying I had a couple kids that had me for Art 1 that now have me in sculpture, and those were my couple kids that were like, can we go outside and go dumpster diving and get some stuff? Like, yeah. I was like, yes, go do that. But there were a lot of kids who hadn't had that, or it'd been more than a semester since they'd had Art 1, so they were scared. So it's that whole permission thing you're talking about. That's like, it's okay.
Yeah. Has anyone ever heard or read the book Art and Fear? I haven't, but I've ordered it.
It's great. It's great.
It's supposed to be phenomenal.
And it's a little skinny thing. Your kids could read it. It's really, really good. Lots of nuggets. How I'm always have my little quotes. It's full of quotes. You'll like it. Buy it.
Well, I found so much through the book No More Secondhand Art, but I've really one of my art students who went away to university told me about that book, and it's phenomenal. There is so much to be said for fear in the art classroom, and how much you can get out of students, and how much freedom they feel to become what they want to be or try to.
Yeah, Peter's really amazing, and I got to study with him for an extended period of time. So he's the real thing. He really repaired a lot of broken. I was definitely broken completely as an artist, which ended up being good for my teaching. But yeah, he's good at that stuff. And Art and Fear is a more feet on the ground take on that. And I think certainly your serious students that you feel are going to continue in the arts, I would recommend Art and Fear. Peter's stuff is also a lot of therapy. He's also a therapist, and a lot of that stuff, I feel strongly, having experienced it, it's not appropriate in public school because, oh my God, you take one of his courses, there's people having, meltdowns and so on, and you have to really be trained to deal with that sort of thing. But the philosophy in the book is top-notch. There's the woman who was going to be a good listener.
Maybe we should all read it and have it be the discussion of a future chat.
Yeah. Art and Fear would be good.
I'm writing it down. It's going to happen.
Uh-oh. That's my homework. I've got it. It's around here somewhere. It's around here somewhere in all these books.
That's your assignment.
So what else happened when school started?
What else happened since school started?
Yeah, I don't go back to school. I don't have any stories. Just questions.
Well, we did a task party, which
We did a task party.
Yeah. That was like.
That looked like a lot of fun.
That was.
So what was?
It was great fun, even though Ian was scared.
How so?
Ian was terrified.
How so?
I wasn't.
Ian was like, but we don't have everything planned. I have to organize it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what happened. Actually, I found it really interesting because, I mean, in theory, in my regular class, I just expect the kids to come in and kind of be intrinsically motivated and make art. Although I do know there are things that are attached to that. There is a grade, you are in school, you're supposed to listen to the teacher. With Task Party, I thought to myself, like, a kid's going to go take a task out of a box. They're going to do what that task says, even though the teacher might not even know that they did it. They're not presenting it to anyone, maybe not presenting it to anyone. No one else is going to see it. Yet they all still went and did it, and I just don't know. It seemed like really strange to me. Like, what would make someone do that? Like, go take something out of a box and actually perform it. I guess there's an element of fun in it, but I guess there was no other attachment to it other than that. And I just was actually kind of amazed by that, which I shouldn't be because I'm an art teacher. But
It was kind of interesting with the task party how some kids got so into it. And they were, they're like, can we do that tomorrow? Like, can we do it again? Where other kids felt like they were, too cool for it because they were like the seniors in the room. And if the freshmen thought it was cool, then they couldn't think it was cool. But it really depends on the group, I guess, and like the group dynamics and how they work together.
So and what kind of tasks were they?
That was interesting too, because the first time we did it, and we brought the classes together into one room, so we had a lot of kids running around one room. The first class was a lot more sort of making things kind of tasks, so it would be like I've seen like the Jack Watson had a couple that were like walk a dog or something like that, and so the kids would go make a little dog out of clay, or they'd make it out of paper, and then they pretend they were walking it. It was kind of things like that, and there was some kind of element of making something. There were some really nice ones like write a story or something like that write a story about grass. I think was one of them, and they had and the kids actually would write a whole story. Yeah, but then the second period came, and they got a lot more into the actions than into the making of it. So it would be like one of the actions. I think it was shout pickle or something like that. And it was a piece of paper, and the task said like I think it was pickle, maybe it was mushroom. I don't know.
I think it was
mushroom.
Butter.
It was butter.
It was butter.
Butter. shout butter. It was some kind of food product. Shout butter, and then pass this paper on to somebody else. So they'd scream butter, and then so you'd also hear butter, and they would go around and butter, and then like there was like one like do a cartwheel, and there was more like action ones with actual physical, not making something. So that was interesting too.
And then did they have to write another task and put it back in? So after the first round, you had no idea what was in that bucket.
Yeah.
Henry!
Well, no, we didn't know the first round either, because what we did, to start it off, is we gave everybody a piece of paper and said, and we showed them, like we did show them Jack Watson's TAC party, so they had a couple ideas, but we just gave them paper and said, put your tasks in the box, and once everybody had a task in the box, we started the party. So we didn't look to read, just, yeah. And someone were like, go up to Mr. Sands and tell him that bunnies are better than rabbits or something like that. I don't know who would have put that in there.
Kim wrote that.
I have no idea. I mean, there was one like TP Mr. Sands. That one was in there. But it'd be interesting if I think Sands was saying, and Perty was saying it earlier, that if we did the task part, if we focused on the making of it. So if it's like, TP Mr. Sands, then how are you going to make that rather than the action of it? Maybe focusing more on making like maybe a little mini version of Sands and then TPing that, or
Like a little voodoo doll.
yeah. Exactly. Have a voodoo doll of Sands.
Yeah. And of course that another level of that is that tantamounter thing
Yes.
that we shared with you and that I got to see take place, on the elementary level, where random objects are offered to quickly formed teams, and they have to express that object as a sculpture.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw all that. Did you see that, Kim, since you're the 3D person?
I had heard about it, but I hadn't seen it.
If you email me, I'll send you pictures, because it's a really interesting concept, and it was initiated by a storefront full of artists in New York City a number of years ago, and taken up by some teachers, and lots of fun, and has a lot of the qualities of the task party, but taking it maybe a little more challenging.
That'd be really neat.
Yeah.
I would love to see like how it works and everything, because I know that they've brought it up before, but I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, you need to see some pictures, and I needed to see it in action. What this elementary teacher did was she asked her friends at school to lend her objects. And so there would be a box with an object in it, and it was things off their desk. One was a little skeleton, one was a little animal, and she made teams of 4 kids, I guess, and passed out the boxes to the teams. And they had 20 minutes to go into the found objects, which she had tons of sculptural materials, and make their version of whatever that object was. And I'll send you the web link where you can see. And these were, I think, 4th graders. In New York City, they set up a storefront, and there was a little slot you could put your thing in, and it would say, come back in an hour, and you'll get your object back, and you'll also get the piece of art that you can keep.
Yeah. There's a lot of storefronts like that in New York City, and some of them you don't really want to put anything in the slot.
Put your wallet in here. Yeah. So.
I think it would be a really fun thing to do, that project, and engage other classes, and to have maybe the classes break up into groups. Maybe it's a whole class project or a class, depending on how many classes you can participate, and say, as a class, what do we want to give these artists to recreate, and have them have some kind of a lesson out of it as to why they chose the object and the meaning behind it, and then send it down and have the kids make something and send it back up to that class. I think that'd be a really cool way to do it.
Talk about it another minute or two. I'm going to see if I can pull up one of Diane's photos of the thing actually happening. Or talk about something else, and then maybe I can share my screen, but this will take me a minute. So.
Or if you guys think it would work, at some point we could do it as a sister school thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun too.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best to be focused, but it's so cute to see Melissa's kitty cat being part of our conversation.
Oh, that was a cat. I was thinking it was a dog. Oh, look at that happy face. That's our first four-legged participant.
Yes.
Totally relaxed by this good, mellow conversation about art.
So, quick question: that Art and Fear book. Let's
Yes.
see. Does that look familiar? That cover?
That's it. That's it.
Yes.
Awesome.
You've got it already. You've partway through your homework. All right, I have to figure out how to share my screen here.
Those buttons on the side will do it.
I know, but screen share.
Yeah.
I just hit it, but there I still am. Oh, select a window to show in the video call. Sorry, I'm kind of... All right, I selected it. Are you seeing a window?
Mm.
We
No.
can still see you so far.
Try again.
Maybe if I tap on you.
It's gone black. Oh, you're back.
Oh, I'm showing Diane's stuff here. It's great. I want to show it. Everybody should...
now you're just teasing us.
Yeah, this was so good. It's a wonderful class. Screen share. Ah, here we go.
There it is.
Do you
Yeah,
see it?
there it is.
All right,
That
now.
was it. There it is. Yep.
All right, so you can see there at the top. You can see. Oh wait. Google plugin is giving me things. All right, can you see the tape dispenser?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the children built that. And this was what she put up on her door. And people could put their object in there. So the door of the art room was covered with that. And there's a water bottle. And the children built that. And this was the most amazing one. I sat next to the kids and watched this. So you can see there's a DVD case. And they actually made it stand up. That was a lemon squeezer thing.
Yeah.
So if fourth graders can do that, it would be interesting to see. Now, she changed the name. She thought that the word tantamount had sort of negative connotations. Tantamounter was the first, what the artist did. So she called it the tantalizer. And so this was like a machine, and you put your object in, and out comes the art. So there it is, and you can find it at selfdirectedart.wordpress.com, which is it's Diane Jaquith's webpage from her classroom. And now I guess we can turn that off. How do you get out of it? Oh, there. Bye.
I think every now and then I've taken a peek at that blog, and it's really good. It's helpful.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a fun classroom to visit. I'm going to go hang out with them pretty soon, I think.
And where is she?
She's in Newton, she's in Newton, Massachusetts, which is a very large district, a lot of schools.
Cool. I wanted to share something that is, well, along the same lines. It's complementing Tab, I hope, but it's the idea of using Marshall McLuhan's quote, "The medium is the message," with my class. My grade 10s, we're taking a look at the idea of the self-portrait, but in a different manner, by being inspired by McLuhan's quote and thinking how we represent ourselves depending on the way that we convey art to other people. Mm-hmm. So by choosing the way we communicate visually, how is that a portrait of ourselves?
Wow.
So it's really interesting so far. I think that the kids need that reassurance and that permission again and again as they think about ways, either simple or complex, to attack that problem. And but it's really interesting just thinking about the method by which you communicate being the message that you send.
That's huge. That's really, really, that's wonderful.
So we'll see how it goes.
Either Peter London or the fellow who taught with him the summer that I studied with them said something to the effect that the art is only a byproduct of the emerging self. So these are just byproducts. The self is what is important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I think about that, but it's there you go.
I draw zombies.
Yeah. Well, I would say if you had a self-portrait, that's got to be it, though, because that's what you do. That's what you do.
That's cool.
And what light does that shed on possible discussions of self-portraits and teachers who are unhappy with the outcome of self-portrait, et cetera, et cetera? No, it's a serious issue because self-portraits are a very common assignment at your level, and I see the self-portraits where, you know, they've started with a photograph and then, you know, it's all different shades of blue and so on, and it is a teacher-directed self-portrait actually a self-portrait?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who is it reflecting?
Yeah.
I think that I just want to go back. I'm going to go back and listen to that, what you even said, because I was trying to take it all in when you were saying it. But I was trying to think, you know, I go back into school tomorrow and I've got these kids doing these artists observe projects. But that's sort of, I mean, even doing a self-portrait is an artist observe. So I can take everything you just said and just apply it to them. And that's another dimension, as opposed to just being like, well, you guys are going to do a project where the only requirement is to observe something, but now actually you can go a little deeper than that with that, or I can have conversations that are a little deeper if I take it down that path.
Well, and that'll build the excitement into it too.
Yeah, I introduced that project today to the Art Ones, and I was talking about, you know, what kind of, you know, what's step one, like, what subject matter are you picking, or what are you observing? And I noticed when they were brainstorming their ideas, they happened to go that route of more what represents them and that kind of the idea of the self-portrait on their own. And these are just Art 1 kids, and you know, some of them obviously was like, I want to draw my cup on the desk, but you know, there were a lot of students that said, you know, oh, I grew up in downtown Raleigh, and I want to go take a picture of downtown Raleigh, and I'd like to draw that as my observational piece.
Yeah.
And they talked about how they connected with it when I was walking around.
And there, as a byproduct, you've got some investment happening.
Yeah.
Which to be in short supply in a lot of classrooms. So it's very cool. That's exciting. I'm getting excited about this.
I just think it's neat how much a teacher can learn when things don't go exactly as planned. I'm fascinated by that because there's so much pressure on educators to be perfect or appear perfect because they're in front of a classroom of kids. They're expected to have sometimes the plan that you know, you don't usually stray from, because if you plan, then it's going to be perfect and everything's going to be okay. I just think it's interesting when there's so much honesty in professional life, but also I think we have to give ourselves that permission to play it that as professionals and make those mistakes, and then what happens afterward. How much more dynamic and rich is your classroom going to be because of those mistakes, because you're so honest with yourselves that when you share that with your students, and I know you're going to, because you do that. When you share that with your students and you say, okay, like this isn't what I expected. I don't think this is what you expected, but I think this is where we can take it. And that permission to play, not only as students but as professionals, is crazy good.
And what John used to call transparent teaching.
Yeah.
As you talk about these
precisely.
things with the kids, particularly at your level.
Well, I just thought it was interesting, even to back it up, was like all three of us. It happened to all three of us, and it wasn't like I said like, "Oh, this happened to me," and they're like, "Oh, because I said I was feeling that way, they felt that way." Like each of the three of us, in different ways, felt like it's not working. And so I thought that was cool that everybody, everyone just came back to the table and was like, "Hey, you know what?" It was kind of cool.
That is neat. That's cool. I'm going to mute myself just for a second because someone just walked into our house.
Mom's on TV. Well, I think it's really, I think you've got an article there.
Got an article and a book.
We went this direction, and then, well, seriously, that I'm going to be all up in your faces about that, because it's all up there in your heads. You just have to get it connected to the keyboard, and you're all set.
The weird thing about this article, like if we did write the article, the weird thing about it is like we all felt like it wasn't going right, but at the same time it wasn't bad. It was like it just wasn't good. But I mean, some of the kids blogged about it today, and I read one of the blogs, and she was just talking about how most of the stuff she had done was review, because she's an art too, and I guess she had done a lot of the perspective and stuff we had reviewed. But she said that she could see after the 2 weeks improvement and how she had learned to draw better. So I thought Melissa's idea of like, if we hadn't called it Artist Observe, if we had done like, drawing boot camp, and like she said, we're being honest with ourselves, I think that maybe it still would have been a good thing to have. But it just wasn't what we wanted to get out of it didn't come out of it. So I have mixed feelings about it. I feel like it still was good, but it just wasn't good.
Is anybody else getting bad noises in their earphones?
I am.
It's like a giant mosquito noise.
Yeah.
I'll mute and see what's nice.
Actually, I thought that was my headphones.
Well, seems to have
It's
stopped.
gone away now.
For now. I just think there's so many different pieces to it, because your reaction to it, and you were doing something that previous to the shifts that you've made in your pedagogy, you would have just done as a matter of course, wasn't it? These drawing experiences, and to go back to them, you were really viewing them in a different way, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Hard to tell. I don't know.
Like I said, it was good, but it wasn't what I wanted to accomplish, and that's, I guess, the only way I can sum it up.
Yeah.
But we're gonna fix it.
It's a learning experience.
Definitely.
Well, cool. I don't know where Melissa went, but I think
She left us. She got attacked by her cat.
her cat took over. Well, any last minute thoughts before we end our chat tonight?
No, but next week next time we get together, we should dive into some of the sister school stuff, and like you were talking about, maybe doing a Tanner mount as a collaborative project, or even a task party is a collaborative project. We should start thinking about some things we could do, or at least getting the kids to talk, to join talk or something.
For sure. I'll set up the Google. Yeah, I'll set up the Google community.
Yeah.
Good. Is next Monday night good? I've got my calendar here.
Well, let's chat about that later after we've stopped recording.
Yeah.
But anything else that you want to share before we stop recording? No? All right.
Yep.
Well, it's been a good chat, everybody. I think we're all going to look forward to talking about art and fear, and we had a lot of things to talk about tonight, like especially when it comes to permission to play, both for students and teachers. So I think we're learning a lot together.
Great.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop the broadcast, but thank you.